Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Max and welcome to my airsofting video. So today what I will be talking about is these little bad boys right here, these CO2 canisters. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about why I feel CO2 definitely has its superiority over green gas. Again, it's kind of like a hit or miss between the two because both have unique characteristics that, make them unique in their own way. But mainly I wanted to showcase CO2 and kind of talk a little bit about it. My example for today will be my CO2 Desert Eagle. So this one is by Cybergun, KWC Cybergun. This is the newest version, well, kind of new. This is about 2 years old, I would say, but the newest one out there for KWC/Cybergun. So this will be my little model today demonstrating the CO2 usage and power and efficiency and all that fun stuff. So we'll get right into it, guys, and hope you enjoy. So just to kind of showcase really quickly what CO2 cartridges are, again, not really like a troll or anything, but I mean, a lot of people probably don't mess with CO2 often. I mean, I more so see a lot of people really rocking with green gas. For me personally, I like both of them equally. Obviously, each one has their own pros and cons, but pretty much is for a standard CO2 cartridge, it is going to be a 12-gram cartridge. In my collection here behind me, I have, I think, a total of, I have to double check here, I have a lot of them. I have 1, 2, and the Desert Eagle would make it 3 that are CO2 powered. For these, I don't really showcase these guns a lot because it's actually been a good while since I bought CO2, and I have been meaning to make a video like this for a good while, but just never had a chance to pick any up. But anyway, today is that day. I decided to catch some at a local Walmart that I went to. The brand that I have always used, I know there's other ones, but I just don't feel like ordering it and wait for mail, for the shipping, for whatever, for it to come through. So I just go to Walmart and get like a pack of these. They had a sale for like $7 for 15. I mean, you can't beat that. And honestly, I've used these, like the Crossman CO2s, for probably the last like 10 years or more, something like that. But I mean, these come in very large quantities. I've got the 15 count. They come, I think, in like 30 and like 45, I think, too. And then you can also buy, I think, like a little packet of 5 too. But I mean, it's not too bad. Like with CO2, it's not like there is a superior brand out there. I mean, it's just a canister like this with a logo stamped. So some people, think that logo determines, oh, my CO2 is better than yours. Not really. I mean, the CO2 gas is the same gas used in both, or however many brands sell CO2. It's all the same. There's really nothing that's unique or anything about different manufacturers' CO2. But anyway, just a reminder, whenever you are using a fresh CO2 cartridge, so you can see that this is a brand new one, it's unpunctured, and this is what a used one looks like punctured. So, and there's definitely a difference in weight because all the gas has been expunged already from this one. But one thing I'd like to remind you guys is whenever you're using CO2 cartridge, if you do a little dab of like a GBB oil or some kind of a silicone oil on the tip of it, it actually benefits the O-rings inside your CO2 magazine from drying out. So you'll see that piece in there. There's usually a little O-ring in there that keeps the pressure, through that little valve. That has a tendency of drying out if you don't properly maintain the O-rings, or if you don't do the dab of oil on the tip of this CO2 cartridge. So I will go ahead and just do this real quick and insert a new CO2 into this magazine here. Again, that is for my KWC Desert Eagle. So again, nothing too crazy. I literally would just do like a drop, just enough. Oop, a little bit too much came out. That's what she said. But just enough to where there's like a little shine to it. make sure you have your proper Allen key. Put it in. I think I actually have to untighten it just a little bit. So usually I tend to not just put it in and start tightening right away. I tighten it to just a little bit to where there's no like slack, to where the bolt is pretty like firm, but you know, you can keep going. But I usually do that because I want to make sure everything sits flush, because if this isn't sitting flush and then you have, you know, one end that's like either in too deep or out, like too far out, when you start tightening it, it's just going to release all the gas and then you won't be able to correct it. If I would say, if I had any issues with CO2, this would be the big one, and it's an unfortunate one because if you're not careful with how you tighten this, if it's not sitting properly, you might literally just waste that whole canister, because it's not like green gas. Once that hole is punctured, you better hope you keep turning it all the way to make sure it seals. But sometimes if it's not sitting properly, you're just going to have to let it sit there until all the CO2 comes out of the canister. So that is one drawback with CO2 that I might add. I had it happen many times. A good example is my extended mag for the KWC. There was a valve issue with it, or an O-ring issue, I'm going to assume, because it was dry, I guess. Man, I put it in, and as soon as I tightened it all the way in, I mean, this is just a drop-in. There is no issues with its, you know, like sitting flush or anything, because of the drop-in, it just went right in. But this one, since it has this opening, that's when you have to make sure it's sitting flush. But anyway, long story short, it just expunged all the gas, and I was really like annoyed, and the room smelled like CO2. But man, I'm covered in this oil. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start tightening this. I actually haven't fired this thing in a bit, so I'm hoping that the seals are still good. We'll find out right now. So let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was a little nervous there because it sounded like it was going, and then I was tightening it. It was pretty tight, and I still heard it. So I gave it like one more like good one, and nope, nothing. You don't hear anything. So I gotta hand it to KWC with their seals. I mean, this thing has been not in the gun. I've usually had my extended magazine in the gun when I had it on the wall, so I was quite surprised with the fact that the actual O-ring was still pretty good. So I'll get into talking about another segment with CO2. So let's go over to the next segment here. So one thing to also consider with CO2, it's going to be a much more powerful gas as opposed to green gas and propane. You got to also remember CO2 is under a lot higher pressure. So the first few shots out of your either GBB pistol, or not GBB, CO2 powered gas pistol, or your CO2 powered rifle, it's going to be pretty hot FPS. Usually with my CO2 pistols, or I only have pistols, but usually for any of these, I do tend to go with a little bit of a heavier BB, because with the increased pressure of the CO2, it's going to have an increased FPS. It's going to be very high FPS as opposed to, you know, if there's a green gas counterpart of the Desert Eagle, which there are. So they're going to be shooting completely different FPSs. So for the BBs that I have here, guys can't really see, but they are 0.25 gram BBs, so I tend to just use these for any of my CO2 firings or airsoft games or whatever, shooting demos. Usually I tend to use these just because they don't curve up as much and they have pretty great accuracy. But overall, that's kind of what I would use for my CO2 pistols or rifles if I had one. But so I loaded a few in here. I will just do a couple of shots just to mainly showcase the Desert Eagle, and again talk a little more with the crisp blowback, the just solid mechanical clunks, and just insane power. So we'll do a couple shots here and then we'll go from there. Okay, got my mag, a few BBs in there, my Desert Eagle. This one is the multi-fire, or has multiple selections of fire, so safety, semi, and full auto. I will be just demonstrating this in semi-auto, so again, it's been a while since I fired this thing, so I'm hoping it doesn't do that weird twitch that it usually does, but we'll see. Again, this is a full CO2 cartridge, so let's see how this feels. Ooh. Again, really solid, crisp shot. Lots of gas coming out since it is a fresh CO2 cartridge. And a hell of a kick. Okay. So right there what just happened is the infamous KWC crappy firing system. So this what tends to happen with the first 10 shots is the hammer does this weird halfway motion and then the trigger it's like decocked. So the way to fix it, you could just pull back the hammer. Honestly, I would even check to make sure that there isn't any jams because sometimes it does push into BBs. But no, it doesn't look like there is anything, so we'll continue and do a few more. There we go. Okay. So, again, this is my huge love for CO2 is just there's a lot of power behind it, and it even makes it better the fact that this monster pistol gives it an immense kick. And I mean, honestly, for a lot of the CO2 pistols that I have, like my P226 and my, well, even my revolver, the first 10 shots, you can feel it definitely kick back a little bit since all the gas is coming through just one opening. There's no slide to move back. But, I mean, that's one thing I definitely love with CO2 is just the kick. You know, and of course, it's really beneficial for those of you that love to airsoft outdoors in either the warm or the cool temperatures. With CO2, it's one that is favorited for the winter players like myself. I was a huge winter airsofter back in the day when I had time to airsoft like a lot. I would love to use CO2 and I would love to airsoft in the snow, in wooded areas, whenever it's cold. I don't know. For me, it was always the best thing ever. And with CO2, that means you could still play. You can keep up with the AEG people and have fun. Green gas, unfortunately, is not so lucky because green gas, the optimal performing temperatures for green gas is right around maybe 50, 60 degrees at the lowest. And then obviously the hotter it is, the better. The green gas just likes to work a little bit better. It's more efficient. You know, efficiency decreases as the temperature gets lower with green gas, but CO2, no effect at all. You can go and airsoft in minus 20 degree weather if you wanted to, and you will still have pretty optimal power coming out of your pistol. But I mean, this was just mainly showcasing my my love for CO2 and just how it can really be, you know, fun in all types of climates. You know, you can get a lot of power out of it. You can, I mean, it's easily available in a lot of, you know, retail stores like Walmart, for example, and then even some sporting goods stores. I don't really know a lot around here, but Walmart's usually the best place to go. Everybody has a Walmart near them somewhere. You can pick up a pack of these for dirt cheap, really. You know, I would say it's probably easier than getting green gas, in my opinion. Well, at least where I live at, that's the case. But for some of you that probably have a Walmart closer than an airsoft store, or having to wait to order and deliver some green gas, you know, sometimes Walmart's probably much better solution for you. You know, again, if you're a CO2 person. So that's kind of where CO2 players luck out, is, you know, having those resources available to them with going to the store whenever they want and getting CO2. But anyway, just not to trail off further, but again, that's really what I mainly wanted to showcase today, is just CO2. Nothing too crazy. I'll probably just close the video with just doing a few full auto shots with this Desert Eagle. But anyway, guys, I do appreciate you taking the time watching this video. I really hope you did enjoy it. If you did want to ask me any questions or had any comments to share, definitely leave them in the video. You can send me a message. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under Airsoft King, which a lot of you guys are already following me, so you can definitely see about messaging me there too. Doesn't matter. If you like the video, share it. Like the content, subscribe, because there's always more coming. Everything Airsoft related, it's always coming down the pipe. So anyway, guys, thanks so much. Enjoy this last little bit of the full auto Desert Eagle. All right. Now we mean business. Woo! Drop the BB out of there. Well, I'm going to get that in the camera now. Oh my God. That was awesome.